Gentlemen, we got to get into this Outer World story. Now, this again, one of my favorite writers over at Windows Central. And I actually thought this was Jez Corden, but it wasn't. Jez Corden was promoting it. It was written, ladies and gentlemen, by Samuel Tolbert. And I like Samuel's work a lot. He obviously is a writer and journalist for WindowsCentral.com. And he goes on to say in the header, the Outer Worlds 2 directors tapped Ninja Theory and other Xbox studios to shape the future of their games. This is pretty interesting. So Obsidian's Brandon Alder and Matt Singh reveal how cross-studio collaboration from Ninja Theory's mocap expertise to Double Fine's creative feedback is helping refine the way they make games. And here's where it gets even more interesting. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about this. They even reached out for help on The Outer Worlds 2 with Kojima Productions, which is incredibly interesting. Now, reading from the story directly, a flurry of Xbox first-party games is launching over the next few weeks, including yet another title from Obsidian Entertainment with The Outer Worlds 2. Ahead of the game's launch, we got some details on what the game's directors are up to and how they're working with other Xbox studios, not just on this game, but on some of their future unannounced projects as well. Speaking with Luke Lore on the Xbox expansion pass. Shout out to Luke putting in the work and getting the big names here. He says Obsidian Entertainment game director Brandon Alder and Matt Singh discussed how they are encouraged to collaborate and take advantage of feedback from other Xbox teams. And here's a quote. Matt just recently reached out to Ninja Theory because we're very curious about their mocap and performance capture, how their entire process works, Alder explains. And it goes into, it has a quote here. It's definitely one of the benefits of being in that Xbox umbrella now. We're encouraged to reach out to different studios and talk to them. And that was, of course, Matt Singh, Obsidian Entertainment game director. But here are some additional quotes, Crispy Bomb. They were, again, this is the quote, folks. They were really great with us. We were able to get lots of information about the process they go through when doing conversations or cinematics, and what kind of stuff we can incorporate into our future games when we are working on those kinds of things as well. It goes on to say, it's definitely one of the benefits of being in that Xbox umbrella. Now we're encouraged to reach out to different studios and talk to them as we see fit. That open communication, I think, is brilliant. I think when you look at specifically the coalition, I think, is when you take a real big step back, Crispy, and of course that's your forte, they really are the catalyst of what's going on at Xbox Game Studios. You got to remember, many, many years ago, before they had as many studios as they had, every studio was head down working on their game with their people, and that's the extent of it. And then we saw a change. And I really do think, like I said seconds ago, the catalyst for that change is the coalition, because as you know, the coalition does have a team that goes around and helps studios that are working on what? The Unreal Engine. More specifically, the Unreal Engine 5. And hearing this story from Windows Central from Samuel Tolbert really should get anyone that is an Xbox fan or an Xbox Games Studio fan excited for the potential that when you are playing a game, this game is going to be by potentially one of your favorite developers, but it's also going to have help on the back end from some of your other favorite developers. I'm super stoked to hear about this. Let's get your thoughts on the fact that they even tapped Kojima Productions, man. That is incredible.
Yeah, that was a surprise out of anything. I mean, I think, and you know, boo me for bringing it up, but I think Redfall is the reason why this is all like transpiring.
That's a great point, dude.
Quicker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, Phil in that interview said I should have brought in the A team, and he meant at the time probably mostly of the coalition. But I think now, as you know, these games have dropped, and you know, like Ninja Theory having such success with Hellblade 2 and all these other things, they can go and say, hey, like, you know, the encouragement to collab is there because we don't want to have another Redfall. You know what I mean? And I think it's important that to learn from your mistakes. And I think all the games that have come out after that have been much, much better. So if you really just look at that, but to have, we haven't really had full on confirmation. We've had little tidbits here and there, but they really went into it this time. And I think it's because they're trying to tell you, like, we're going to take the best of the best from these studios that we feel we can use those said even technologies like, Ninja Theory has. So I think as time goes on, we're going to see more and more collaboration and probably hear more and more about it. And, my excitement for Outer Worlds 2 is incredible because, I can also play in third person, which I love to do. So it's an exciting time. And I think you're going to see just quality after quality games, and they could be small and they could be large. But at the end of the day, I think they're going to use each other in a collaborative way, and it's going to be more frequent and more often. And I think it's really going to up the ante of the quality of the product. And, personally, I believe that it's also going to help build morale throughout all these different teams and really understand that they all have like a common place, just build a great game, and they can really lean on each other for it. So I think it's very exciting.
You know what's interesting? I did a search, and this was reported a couple of months ago, Fuzzy Belvedere, where Xbox is pushing its studios to collaborate more closely, unify under a single fiscal strategy, to share technology to improve efficiency and a higher quality of its games. And I think that is just phenomenal. But I want to read a little bit more from this article. According to Samuel Tolbert, it says the process goes both ways with Singh, adding that the team has been encouraged not only to just garner advice, but to give it as well. And then this is a quote from the director. Brandon and I went to talk with Double Fine Productions CEO Tim Schafer and see if we can offer any kind of feedback on some of the stuff that they're working on, adding that because we were in Japan recently, we got an opportunity to sit down and talk with Kojima Productions a little bit. And again, I'd love to hear these kind of stories. So Samuel closes out the article by saying, back in June, when I went hands-on with the Outer Worlds 2, Adler mentioned how the teams approached Halo Studios, formerly 343 Industries, for a list of ways to improve on the gunplay for Outer Worlds 2, something Adler reiterates in the latest interview. Now, again, this is Samuel saying this. Personally, I've always liked hearing these kinds of details, learning how teams can build on with each other upon providing a second look or feedback in the way that they make their games. And this is something that is happening more often than not. Buzz, let's get your thoughts on this, brother.
Well, it's a great thing to see the camaraderie between the teams within their first party as well as ones that they've partnered with as far as for Xbox Studios for other developers outside of their fold. Having them where they can collaborate, share technologies, or just work together on, even if it's not a collab per se specifically for the game, but making it easier in this industry as far as working on these new technologies, which a lot of people have given Xbox, smoke for their, studio management as well as, the tools and things like that. A team like Kojima Productions, they're probably one of the few teams outside of first party that are, pretty proficient when it comes to using Xbox tools. We'll see when, OD is released, but the approach as far as how their dev kits work, I know it was an interesting thing for Kojima working with that set, and I think he had made posts about that before on the tech that's involved in that. Outside of the whole not Decima engine, is it Decima engine that he uses from Sony, but as far as the hardware, he's had nothing but good things to say in the past. So having one of first party's teams work with somebody that has a very creative vision on a lot of their games and whatnot could add some interesting, outlooks within that we could see in Outer Worlds 2. Like I think some of the big things that some people may have joked about with Outer Worlds 2, just or Outer Worlds 1, was the stealth wasn't always as refined as they would probably like. And then some of the gameplay reveals that they did like a month or two ago, showing how the stealth works, where you can sneak past the robots or some of the cameras and security systems and things. Maybe they've picked up some pointers from Kojima in regards to his games, not heavily relying, but having a good element of stealth involved in them. So, seeing those types of collaborations, or just them, even if it's just talking about how the process works as far as building these games, it's awesome to see. But also, we've always heard how Coalition is kind of like the go-to team when it comes to Unreal Engine, which I don't know if anybody's noticed, but a lot of Xbox games use the Unreal Engine. So having a in-house expert, and then having almost like a secondary in-house expert with Ninja Theory, seeing how they were working greatly with the mocap and the metahuman tech that's usable within the um, Unreal Engine 5 engine. It goes to show that at least Xbox is listening to some of the things that we may have said in the previous generation that we would like to see more of, as far as teams working together and refining their craft. And I think we're now witnessing it with a lot of the games that are coming out from their first party studios. It was something that was always touted as far as being, well, PlayStation, they build from within, and all of their teams collaborate, and that's why all of their games are this tier of quality. And now we see that same type of measure when it comes to Xbox first party studios. But with them working with studios outside, I think that's a great thing as far as getting more input, sharing more knowledge, and maybe learning some different techniques, out of box thinking as far as approaches on different development things. And I can't wait to see what it pans out to be in Outer Worlds 2. But overall, I'm looking forward to this game. Love the first game. Hoping that there's one of those like shortcut endings as well, like what they had in the first one. Kind of like what you can do in like what is that? I forget the other thing that was like Far Cry. Like Far Cry, you always had like the quick ending and then the played ending. I'm hoping we have another like quick ending with Outer Worlds 2, and then the one that's like the 20-hour, 40-hour, 60-hour ending that you can work towards, type of thing. But really looking forward to that game.
Well, I mean, listen, again, it's releasing this month, and you know what's interesting, guys? I kind of just want to I have a bit of a back end conversation. I don't really think people are giving Obsidian Entertainment its just due. And again, this is just my personal opinion. If Chad, by all means, throw yours in there as well. But by the end of the month, they will have quietly released 3 major first party games this year. Avowed is still my game of the year. I'm waiting for the New Game Plus update. I'm hoping that they're going to announce some additional content, and I'm talking about maybe an expansion, because they didn't plan for it, right? So I hope that there might be some something in the works, because obviously it's going to be a franchise moving forward. I loved every second of it. I played it for probably around 50 plus hours, and I want to jump back into it. What's interesting is, what makes me want to jump into it again isn't because it's I want to play the game again. I want to play the game from Jamie Moran's perspective, because every time I've seen Jamie Moran's gameplay, it's always been in third person, and it's always been a melee character. See, I played in first person, and I used all magic. And watching Jamie's gameplay, you've heard me say this before, I'm like, my God, that looks so much fun. Did I play this game wrong? And that's why Avowed is special. That is why Avowed is still my game of the year, because I am going to roll a new character, and I want to play that new character from a third person perspective, but I want to go melee rather than magic, because it looked like a totally different experience. But then, of course, you bring in Grounded 2, right? Now, yes, it's in preview, but everyone that has played it, not for me, I'll happily admit it, not a game that I'm going to play, but everyone that I've seen playing it has had some incredible stories about why it's even better than the original. And then, of course, you have the Outer Worlds 2 releasing. We've seen tons of preview. The game looks leaps and bounds better than one. There's no doubt about it. And hearing now, Fuzzy and Crispy, that they've sought help and advice from other big name studios. Again, I just don't think they're getting enough credit that when the year is done, Crispy, they're going to have released 3 freaking games, and every one of their games will have hit. Look at your final thoughts on that.
It's insane because, I played Grounded 1. It's not my jam, so I know I didn't really, wasn't really interested in it. But like for them to go right into Grounded 2 so quickly and then have Avowed already there and then Outer Worlds 2, it's like they could bang out an RPG and a quality RPG pretty darn quick. So imagine if they take more time for, because if you really think about it, you got 2, so maybe you get an Avowed 2, and then hopefully they're going on to something else, because it seems like the team is just like running in all cylinders right now. And it's just ready to like, okay, we could bang out, in 2 years, we'll have another, 2 or 3 games from Obsidian, because they just like, they joined and it's like everything opened up. And it's one of those rare things, like, we always give Microsoft a bunch of hate, but it's like, that was just the best purchase. And in realism, I feel like the way Obsidian's developing, they are completely happy and ready just to deliver more. And I mean, it's just crazy. And I mean, whatever award can be given to a developer, they should absolutely have all of them. So that's really my thought.
And it's a great one. Fuzzy, I just did a search and I knew that I had this confirmed because I had it in my notes, but I wanted to reconfirm it. So Obsidian Entertainment is currently working on, at least, it says, 3 games. The Outer Worlds 2, which is releasing later this month, Grounded 2, which is in preview, and another unannounced project. I mean, that's 4 games, bro. Like, again, this is... Some people are going to get angry. I know the virtual tomatoes are coming for me. I've said this before. One of my favorite studios on Sony's side of things, and I think a studio that is underappreciated by its fan base, that's Insomniac Games. Mm-hmm. I think that they have done such an absolutely amazing job carrying the PlayStation banner. They have released game after game after game. And granted, they have become like the Marvel churning IP studio. But you got to admit, like, I don't know about you fine folks, Wolverine looked a lot better than the leaked footage. And I am there day freaking one. Yeah. But I'd like to take Obsidian and move it to shoulder. Now, there's going to be some people in the chat that think one is better than the other. I don't. I think they both are incredible studios. But I like to compare Obsidian to Sony's Insomniac because they do carry the companies or the platforms on their shoulders. And a perfect example of that is not only is Avowed out, not only is Grounded 2 out and doing very well, you have the Outer Worlds 2 releasing later this month, and they have another game in development, which again, your rumor is going to vary. I'm praying and hoping that it is either a remake of Fallout New Vegas or a sequel, which, of course, again, just adding some credence, the guy that worked on New Vegas just recently came back to Obsidian. I'm just saying. So,
yeah.
Get your thoughts, man.
Yeah, like I consider them in the similar category as far as being able to churn out quality games on a relatively short basis. They are definitely, I wouldn't say they're carrying Xbox though, but they're definitely delivering as far as they're probably one of the most valuable purchases that they've made from that 2019 on type of time frame. I mean, well, outside of pure money of ABK itself, but for an individual studio, they have gotten their workflow and their order of operation down pat to the point where they have a game in the works. One is just wrapping up, and they already have another one that's in like early prototype or early development. And they constantly do that workflow to the point where they're able to churn these things out relatively quick, even though they may have a 5-year dev cycle. But they've stacked their workflow, so there's always something going on, whether it's that they're broken up into 2 or 3 teams or 4 teams or however many. But yeah, I'm curious to see if it is something in the Fallout universe that they're working on next. There is still Stormlands that was supposed to be a launch title that they were going to do for Xbox in the Xbox One generation that I would love to see. But they've done just so well with all of the games that they produce, and they listen to the fan feedback. Although I know some people are like, yeah, I hope some of the media hate that they got for Avowed, gets ignored by Xbox, so that way they make a sequel that follows a similar tradition, just maybe expand on the universe or expand on the companions and things like that. But like when you look at like from Grounded to Grounded 2, one of the biggest things that I would say, and I'm like Crispy, it's not my particular favorite game, but it is fun with friends, is that they now have mounts, or you're able to ride the bugs and have that carry you through like certain areas and things. That was huge, and the fact that they can fight alongside with you against other bugs and things. So they're definitely improving on all of their follow-ups, and I'm looking forward to see what other improvements other than the ones they've shown, because some of the thing that was cool is that some perks had like negative effects, and they've expanded on that with this one, where I know there's one where if you look at the sun a lot, it kind of regenerates your health. But then anytime you aim down scope, you get that like little bit of a solar flare in the lens kind of thing. So you get the positive of being able to regenerate your life and everything, but then you might be blinded when you're trying to snipe enemies and stuff. So I love some of the things that they've added into their RPGs, and I would consider them one of the best as far as the RPG genre in general, up there with a CD Projekt Red even. So I would love to see what they do beyond Outer Worlds 2, whether it's an Avowed 2, whether we finally see Stormlands or some sort of follow up or sequel to like a Fallout New Vegas type of deal. They're the kings right now as far as productivity, quality, and just being the one of the best studios or best acquisitions. Although I still love we are playground or playground games as far as what they've been doing with the Forza Horizon series and what they'll probably contribute going forward for Forza Motorsport, and then with Fable right around the corner. They're like my A and B team. I'm pretty sure Crispy's on the Coalition side, and there's tons of other great studios within Xbox's fold. But yeah, I think Obsidian is one of their top notch ones. It may not be the top in everybody's opinion, but they're definitely in the top 3, I would say, for most Xbox fans.
Well, I mean, again, when you talk about RPGs, it's easy to think and equate Bethesda, right? Like they are a major RPG machine. But when I think shoulder to shoulder in that conversation is Obsidian. I really do. I think that to ignore the fact that they have done so many incredible OG IPs, that the fact that they're still around and they're still churning out quality RPGs, you got to be a fan. I love RPGs. I love open world RPGs, and there's nothing more exciting than seeing someone like Obsidian just continue to deliver. And they're going to deliver 3 major releases in one 12-month period. That's insane. We haven't seen that in a really long time, and